Okay, welcome to SNAB A-Level Biology. Okay, we're dealing with some questions on water, so let's have a little look. Right, question one. Water is a polar molecule. The diagram shows a molecule of water. See the oxygen, and we've got two hydrogens. Of course, the formula is H2O. Complete the diagram to show the dipole nature of this water, and this question is worth 2 marks. So, pause the video and have a go. All right, I'm going to go through the answer. So what you have to think about with water, and this is just for people that are curious, these solid black lines mean that there is a covalent bond. So you've got two hydrogen atoms covalently bonded to the oxygen. Now, hydrogen has one electron, so there are two electrons, one from the oxygen and one from the hydrogen involved in these bonds. What we have to think about with oxygen, it's in group 6 of the periodic table, and this means that oxygen has two lone pairs of electrons. Now, what that means is that the oxygen is slightly negative. As electrons have an electrically negative charge, the oxygen is slightly negative and the hydrogen is slightly positive. Now, in biology, in order to show this, we also use this in chemistry. We use a delta symbol, which is this symbol, and we put a minus for the oxygen and a plus for the hydrogen. Now, depending on your exam board, some exam boards just allow you to put plus and minus, but in SNAB, which is what you guys are doing, you need to put a positive charge with the delta symbol on the hydrogen and the negative charge on the oxygen. What have I done over here? This is just to show you why the oxygen's negative. It has those extra lone pairs of electrons. So when we go to the mark scheme now, you'll find that you get 1 mark for the correct delta sign and negative on the oxygen, and 1 mark if you put the delta sign on both hydrogens and the positive on both hydrogens, and that'll get you the marks. And here's the mark scheme. So there you go. Correct symbol and charge on the oxygen atom and correct symbol and charge on both hydrogen atoms. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, so for this next question, question 2, sweating is a thermoregulatory mechanism. A student stated that loss of heat when heating is related to the dipole nature of water molecules. Justify this statement. Now, 99% of the questions you get on water are going to need you to bring up the chemistry behind water's properties. So once again, they've told us that water has a dipole nature. What does that mean? Well, look at our diagram. So this means my first statement will be to say, explain why water has a dipole nature. So the oxygen atom is negative and the hydrogen atom is slightly positive. So straight away, I want to get that out there. Okay. What does that mean? Well, that means that my next oxygen atom is going to be attracted to the hydrogen on a different water molecule. And of course, you guys should know this means that we form hydrogen bonds. What have I done there? Bit dodgy. So let's do another hydrogen on this one. So what we're really looking at here is a hydrogen bond, and it's this dashed line between two water molecules that is the hydrogen bond. And these bonds require lots of energy to break. Okay, so the oxygen atom is negative, the hydrogen atom is slightly positive. The negative oxygen on one atom is attracted by, or forms hydrogen bonds, would be a better way to say it, with the hydrogen atom on the neighboring or adjacent water molecule, or on the next water molecule. Okay, so good to say adjacent or neighboring. Basically, you need to make it clear that the positive hydrogen forms a hydrogen bond with a negative oxygen from a different water molecule. You don't want to imply they're on the same water molecule, because these bonds between the atoms on the same water molecule are known as covalent bonds. So we really want to show the examiner we understand that A negative oxygen on one water molecule is attracted to a positive hydrogen on an opposite water molecule, and this forms a hydrogen bond. Now, why does that make it a good thermoregulatory mechanism for regulating our temperature? These hydrogen bonds, whoopsie, require lots of energy to break. Okay, so they require lots and lots of energy to break. Therefore, water has a high latent heat. Now, you can use the word evaporation or you can say vaporization, so of evaporation. So because there's a high latent heat of evaporation, it means when you break these bonds, when we turn sweat on our body into steam, what happens is a lot of energy is removed from the body. So this removes lots of energy from the body when water or sweat evaporates, cooling the body. So obviously, if energy is leaving the body is going to be cooler after. Now, you're really going to get marks for pointing out that you have a negative oxygen and hydrogen. You're going to get marks for saying that there's an attraction called a hydrogen bond between the positive part on one water molecule and the negative part on another water molecule. These hydrogen bonds require energy to break. That's probably on the same marking point as saying, therefore, there's a high latent heat of evaporation and removes a lot of energy from the body when cooling. And let's check out the mark scheme. So let's clear this. Right. Water has an uneven distribution of charge. It has a dipole. Well, that's exactly the same as describing a dipole. So if you say oxygen is negative and hydrogen's positive on a water molecule, you've described the dipole, so you'll get the mark for saying that. It's even quicker to just say it has a dipole. So water forms hydrogen bonds with other water molecules. Again, if you said it forms a bond from the positive to the negative between water molecules, again, hydrogen bonds, quick way of saying that, requires a lot of heat to break these hydrogen bonds or these attractions. And this means taking a lot of heat with it when water evaporates. The way to describe that is, if you can remember it, is to say it has a high latent heat of evaporation, which means lots of energy is required to evaporate a particular mass of water. All right, let's move on. So, third question out of 4. Explain how the properties of water make it an ideal transport medium. So, there's a whole bunch of reasons why water's a good transport medium. First of all, water is a good solvent. So you're going to get a mark for pointing out that water's a solvent. What does that mean? Well, it dissolves solutes, so it dissolves solid things. And it all comes down to the fact that water is a polar molecule or has a dipole. What does this mean? This means water can dissolve other polar molecules. So why can water dissolve other polar molecules? Well, water can form hydrogen bonds with other polar molecules. Now, you might say, that's great. Well, water can't dissolve oils. Oils are non-polar. They don't have a dipole. But water can dissolve the useful metabolites that we find in biology. So if you think of all the useful molecules in your body, amino acids, they're needed to build skin, muscle, hair, enzymes, hormones. Amino acids, of course, are the monomers that make up proteins. So it's very useful that amino acids are polar, and the transport medium for our body, which is water, is also polar, because it means the water can form hydrogen bonds with amino acids, and we can transport amino acids anywhere we want in the body. Another very important molecule, of course, you know, is glucose. Glucose has oxygen and hydrogen atoms, so it can do hydrogen bonding. And glucose is a polar molecule, so glucose will dissolve in water. Water can surround a glucose molecule and form hydrogen bonds with it. And that is the reason why water is such a good transport medium, because the important metabolites in our body are also polar molecules, so they can be carried by water. Also, another fact about water, water has cohesive properties. So this is something you need to know. Water has cohesive properties, so it can flow in a continuous column. So what does that mean? Well, when you're sucking Coca-Cola up a straw, one water molecule enters your mouth, it pulls the next one along. And we call this cohesion. It's the ability of water. And if you think we have, I'm doing my little diagram here, we have negative oxygen, positive hydrogens. We know they form hydrogen bonding, right, which we show with a dashed line to the negative oxygen on the next water molecule. Well, if I pull this top one, what happens to the bottom one? The bottom one gets pulled along with it, and so forth. There'll be another water molecule starting down here. And so when you pull on a water molecule, you pull all of them up like a piece of string. And we call this cohesion. They stick to each other. Very good. So this will get you your 3 marks. Let's check out the mark scheme. So water's a solvent, great. Can dissolve other polar molecules. Yeah, we said that. Water molecules surround or hydrogen bond with other molecules. We said that as well. Okay, they can hydrogen bond to ions, so things like sodium chloride salts, but they can also hydrogen bond to other polar molecules like glucose and amino acids. Water is a liquid. Oh, you get a mark for that. So it has the ability to flow. And it says any reference to cohesion between the water molecules, which is that ability for them to stick together as they're pulled along. And of course, that's how water moves up the xylem in transpiration. Now, let's move on to the last question. So the last question is a quick 1 marker, so make sure you pause the video and have a go. Name the type of reaction in which a water molecule is involved in the breaking of a bond in another molecule. I'm sure you know this. The answer is hydrolysis or hydrolysis, depending on how you want to say it. So hydrolysis is used in all breaking reactions in biology. So if we want to break a protein down, if you've eaten some chicken and you want to break the protein down into amino acids, you need a water molecule to separate 2 amino acids. Okay. If you've eaten some rice and you've got some starch in your body and you need to break that down to access the glucose, you need water molecules to break that starch molecule down into glucose. And same forth with if you have fats or lipids and you want to break them down into glycerol and fatty acids, you need water to do that. DNA, if we want to break a piece of DNA down, we need water to do that. Every time we want to break a biological molecule down, we use hydrolysis reactions. This is why, of course, after about 3 days without drinking water, you'll die. Whereas you can go like 3 weeks without eating food, because without water, you cannot break down those polymers into monomers, and they're called hydrolysis reactions. All right, guys, hope that helps. Like, share, subscribe. Let's get to the marks.
You're still here? It's over.